Right, guys, another bit of content that hasn't come up in a while, which is the treatment of minorities and Jews in Nazi Germany. Again, I'll leave everything on the slides. It should be in your Teams file section as well. But I'll give you a little bit of commentary over this short PowerPoint. Okay, so remember, you need to understand the context of this, and this is that the Nazis view themselves as the superior race. They view the Germanic race as near the top, and in particular the Aryan race. Okay, the purity of the Aryan race, which is the blonde haired, blue eyes. Now, they persecute a lot of groups that they think are lesser than them. The Slavs being very well, number one, they wanted to kind of invade these Slav countries for Lebensraum, which is the living space. Now, they targeted gypsies as well because they believed the gypsies weren't really contributing to the nation. They saw them as these social nuisances that threatened this German purity. And gypsies were put in concentration camps. They were later deported. I think a problem with the gypsies, similar to the Jews, was the Nazis but saw them as loyal only to themselves. They believed that the gypsies were not loyal to Germany. They were like, because they're a migratory kind of group, they didn't believe they were German. Homosexuals, again, they believed these would spoil the Aryan race. A lot were sent to concentration camps. Remember, the Nazis were all about procreation, and they saw homosexuals as a group who really did not participate in this. Disabled, again, they saw these as a burden. There was actually a law passed, so highlight this if you have the slides with you or you are making notes, and that is the law for the prevention of hereditary diseased offspring, which meant people with disabilities were sterilised. By 1939, babies with these severe disabilities would be killed, and that's the T4 program. Again, just shows the harshness of the Nazi policies. And then the idea of the Nazis' racial philosophy, which taught that Aryans were the master race and all the others were Untermensch, which is subhuman. And scientists kind of, at this time, they believed in eugenics. They believed that people with disabilities and social problems were degenerates, and they wanted to eliminate these issues from the bloodline. They wanted to eliminate these taints from the German bloodline. So eugenics policies were to promote this perfect race, to promote the Aryan race, and the whole purpose of this was to eliminate anything that could become an issue for that race. Anti-Semitism. So you need to know what this means. And anti-Semitism is the hatred or policy against Jewish people. And there was a lot, not just in Germany but around Europe at this time. And a lot of it was because of their religion, their looks, their customs, which made Jews as different. Some Christians hated the Jews. They blamed them for execution of Christ. They called them Christ killers. Jews were also successful, so a lot of people were jealous of the Jews. And by the 1930s, anti-Semitism was growing in Germany, partly because Germans wanted Germany for Germans, and they classed the Jews as the enemy. Remember, again, the Nazis saw Jews as only loyal to themselves, not to the German people. And the Nazis blamed the Germans for the defeat in World War One, with hardly any evidence. And by 1933, Hitler's free to target them and pursue them. Now, moderate Germans, they actually allowed themselves to be influenced by this propaganda. And, this propaganda was intense. It was just constantly showing images, showing kind of the negativity surrounding the Jewish people that was in people's faces the entire time. And this influenced people rather whether to join in, for example, Kristallnacht, or to look the other way. Okay, and this was a policy that was ongoing. Now, you need to know the policies that turned against the Jews. I'm going to go through them all. So again, make sure you're on top of all of this. So in 1933, you get the March boycott of all Jewish shops and businesses. So this is where you get the yellow star that was painted outside the businesses with the word Jude. Again, this is to harm their capability of earning money. By April, Jews were banned from government jobs. Civil servants and teachers were sacked. In September, Jews are banned from inheriting land. And in 1934, Jews are banned from parks, swimming pools. Separate benches were made for Jews. In 1935, the Jews were banned from the army, and back in 1934, Jewish shops had to have a yellow star. Jews had to sit apart from other Germans on public transport. So it's very much this kind of segregation. They're already pushing them away in society. They're already separating them in society. Right, you need to know the Nuremberg laws. These are so important. 1935. So this is where the German citizen, the citizenship law, also known as, which means Jews can no longer become German citizens. They could therefore not be employed in any public position or be protected by law. They were now subjects. They had no right to vote, hold a passport. You also have the law for the protection of German blood and honour, which banned marriages between Jews and non-Jews and outlawed the sexual relations between them outside of marriage. And persecution was official, so this was directed by the government. So again, make sure you know the Nuremberg laws. By 1938, Jews had to register their possessions so the government could easily confiscate them. Again, another policy just turning against the Jews. And by 1938, they had to have identity cards. And then you get things cranking up even more. A lot of Jews kind of saw these warning signs. They started to leave. Otto Frank, if you know your kind of Anne Frank history, he leaves quite early on, but then obviously later on when the Germans, the Nazis took over part of Europe, the Franks were again captured. But, people did start to leave, but a lot of Jews kind of stayed. And the reason why people stayed, they just assumed, how can things get any worse than they were? And they just did, unfortunately. And the lives of Jews who stayed in Germany got increasingly worse. A lot of Jews found it hard to buy food, clothing, and medicine because shopkeepers just wouldn't serve them. They were dismissed from their jobs, unable to get over work, banned from entering public places. Jews would find it harder to leave Germany because of. So things just get even worse with the Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass. This is where, in November 1938, a Jew shot dead a naturally official in Paris. And Hitler, first it's Goebbels who ramps up the propaganda campaign against the Jews, and then he convinces Hitler, didn't take much convincing, to order the SS to terrorize the Jews. And this is a campaign of terror. This is a week of violence where Jewish shops are smashed, synagogues are destroyed, homes are destroyed and looted. Thousands of Jews were arrested, nearly 100 killed. Regular Germans were actually involved in this as well. Some just, again, as I said before, looked the other way. There would be a fine of 1 billion marks. Jews were forced to clean streets on their hands and knees. There was mass arrests. And within weeks, 30,000 Jews had been sent to concentration camps. So this is really final straw for a lot of Jews. This is where it really ramped up. And that is really finalising their policies towards Jews in the Nazi period.